I have to refrain to use my hand because I'm Italian, so I will be...
Yes, well, I don't get a slap.
So I was born in Italy, not very far from the Gardasee, which is a place that every German knows, as far as I know. So I started to study Tibetan in Naples because when I was in high school, I got interested in the political situation in contemporary Tibet. And quickly I understood that Paris was even a better place to study Tibetan. So I moved there and I did my BA and my MA in Tibetan studies. And then all of a sudden discovered that there was this imperial period, which was extremely interesting and very different from all the classical Tibetan period with this Buddhist hegemony. So I got interested in the imperial period and started to do an MA on this, and yeah, couldn't get out of it yet. After this French first experience, I moved to Munich for 3 years at the beginning of my PhD, and then moved back to Paris to finish my PhD, and then moved here to Bochum this year.
So Emanuela is a truly international scholar, and we're very happy at CERES to have you here.
I'm a European wandering between Italy, France and Germany. To be honest, I was in Bochum once at the very beginning of my PhD for one of the very first CERES Eric summer school. But I told myself, okay, I'm never going to be back in Bochum in my life again, right? And then a few years later, here I am. I wouldn't say that I have a favorite spot yet, but I love the woods in Bochum. I really love the trees in Bochum. They are so big and majestic. It's wonderful. But the Bergbau Museum in the outside is extremely nice for me. I love industrial architecture. One of the main reasons I chose CERES, is also because there are not only many people working on different kind of aspects on religious, but also there are many people working on the cultural area I'm looking at, and more or less on the same period. So having all these colleagues, of course, Professor Meinert, but also all the others here, is extremely, extremely interesting for me.
Yeah, I was actually happy to meet Emanuela when I was invited to be part of her dissertation. What's it called? Dissertation, PhD defense. And ever since we had been in touch, and so then I was really intrigued by her research, and I thought, well, that's a good extension to our BuddhistRoad project. And I asked her whether she would be interested to come to Bochum, which Emanuela kindly accepted, and so we looked for funding opportunities to bring her here with her whole family. So the RUP Research School, a wonderful institution with lots of opportunities, funding opportunities, and one funding line was in this new idea to support young female researchers. So I thought, that's excellent. One of the criteria of eligibility was children.
Carmen told me that there was this new fellowship by the RUB called Lore Agnes Fellowship. And it turned out that I was actually pregnant when she told me. So it was a perfect situation. So I was lucky enough to get this Lore Agnes Fellowship. And then I was lucky enough to have the von Humboldt Foundation postdoctoral fellowship. So when I moved here, I basically was able to have the Lore Agnes and then the von Humboldt Fellowship. So I will be in Bochum in total for 30 months, which is a really long period for a postdoc, and I feel extremely privileged to be able to do that. Bringing it here was extremely easy because I had the support from the research school and from CERES. Also, both of them were
and the international office helped.
And the international office, yes, you're right. So the three of them were extremely helpful in suggesting us how to properly find a place to stay, but more importantly, how to find a place in the kindergarten for our daughter. And without all those actors, we couldn't have done it in the same way.
I think all the institutions showed very well what is possible within a very short amount of time.
Absolutely.
To bring a renowned young researcher here to Bochum and to have the support system that allows a young female researcher with a child, with a small child, to continue excellent research.
Okay. So,
Ganz kurz,
ja.
gehen Sie ruhig vorbei, kein Problem.
Für immer da drinnen jetzt.
So, for my PhD, I worked on the contacts between the Chinese Empire and the Tibetan Empire. And for the postdoc, I decided that I would move a farther bit later to this period, when those 2 or 3 major empires, namely the Chinese, the Uyghur, and the Tibetan Empire, collapsed. And we saw there is an emergency of new, different and small powers. And what is interesting for me and for us as an extension for this BuddhistRoad project is to see how those new powers interact and how Buddhism plays a role in these interactions.
In the BuddhistRoad project, we understood that Buddhism was the main driving force to bring different people together, but at the same time, it was a means to connect this region after large parts of Central and East Asia fell apart, to reach out to further distant areas. And so at the one time it became a global force, and at the other time a very local one. And so your project really would go a step beyond that and include also the Khitan Empire, the Tangut Empire, and to see how the emerging formation of the Sung dynasty and local Tibetan rulers, how they continue to interact. In the 10th and 11th century, this whole region was very developed.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a very sophisticated society. These oasis towns, for example, in Eastern Central Asia, they were very cosmopolitan centers, and people moved through it back and forth. Before they went into the desert, they did their prayers, to get through. Yeah.
And you have to imagine that there were very frequent contacts, and roads were extremely well traveled by monks and merchants and representatives of different powers. Some of them were semi-nomadic or nomadic powers, and some of them were more established, like the Chinese Empire, of course. But what you have to imagine more are the archaeological site that we are facing today, like Karakoto or Dunhuang. We have to imagine as a very big complex of grottos.
You had the town, and then outside of the town you had the Morgal caves. And so they were carved. I mean, that's quite interesting to see what people did there. They first started in, I think, the year 366 or something, where somebody had a vision about a Buddha, so he decided to make a small donation and carve out of the stone a small niche for a Buddha. And people continued to do this for, 1,500 years after him. So that's pretty impressive. And we have thousands and thousands of manuscripts in all sorts of languages. And this is fantastic. I mean, it's probably one of the richest libraries worldwide of medieval manuscripts.
Sources in different languages, in Tibetan, in Chinese, and probably in Tangut too. And those are mainly manuscripts and textual sources. Most of those manuscripts are digitalized, so one doesn't have to go to Asia to consult those manuscripts. But I do attach particular importance to fieldwork. So hopefully I will do a small fieldwork in the upcoming months to get a taste of what do all these sites look like? And it is very different to look at where the manuscript come from, how is the environment, even geographically speaking, from the climate point of view. And those textual sources will be put into dialogue also with visual materials, such as frescoes from the grottos that we just mentioned, but also archaeological sites, such as funerary sites or cities like Karakoto. So we have a lot of sources available, and one of the challenges at the beginning of this postdoc is to properly put them into dialogue.
Maybe I can add, like you mentioned, a city like Karakoto. When people think about a city, it's not like Bochum as a city, but now it's ruins in a sea of sand, basically. Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of empty space, and then all of a sudden you have this density of cultural production, which is just mind-blowing.
I have to produce a series of articles. So, and also a monography of proceedings from a conference I will be organizing here in CERES. So we are putting together all our forces, and besides I also will be publishing in the BuddhistRoad papers and also in different journals. So.
In the BuddhistRoad project we have set out, it's actually a working paper series, BuddhistRoad papers available, open access. So the outcome of your project is, we're quite happy to publish that as well as a BuddhistRoad paper. But what do I do with my woman cushion here? How do I hide it? I just throw it away now. Sorry.
So my daughter's favorite word in German, I think, is nein, because she is 2, so she's in her opposition phase. So when she comes back from the kita, it's nein, nein, nein.
Opposition phase, it's totally over when she's 3.
Okay, then. Okay, good. No, she likes a lot of. She's starting to speak German, so she says a lot of words, and she has already a better accent than I do. So that's perfect. Okay, perfect.
So thank you.
Thanks to you.